Welcome to today's webinar, where we're excited to introduce the new software as a service version of our award-winning B2B extranet collaboration platform, Extranet Collaboration Manager. Well, I'm Jeff Cate, the founder and CEO of Premier Point Solutions. We're a software company that's in its 22nd year of business, and we've had a long history in the B2B extranet software market. We first introduced Extranet Collaboration Manager in 2007 as an add-on to Microsoft's SharePoint 2007 platform. Since then, we've enhanced and refined it with each new release of SharePoint. And now in 2018, we're launching ExCM Extranet Online, which is our first cloud-based offering. In the future, we plan to continue to make ExCM available both on premises and in the cloud. And at the end of this year, we'll be launching ExCM 2019, which will be the on-premises version for SharePoint 2019, which we're expecting Microsoft will launch for general availability by the end of the year. ExCM has been our most popular software product and has a long list of customers that rely on it as their B2B collaboration solution. Our customers span the globe and are in many different industries, such as accounting and legal, consulting, pharmaceutical, government, education, healthcare, and manufacturing. Soon I'm going to give you a live demo, but to set the stage for that, I want to take a minute to highlight some of the unique benefits of ExCM Online. And to do that, let's first take a step back and talk about what is great about an on-premises B2B extranet. That is, when ExCM on-premises is used to power it. We're going to do this because in the demo, you'll see that we've worked hard to bring the benefits of ExCM on-premises to ExCM Online. So benefit number one is that you get to specify the internet address for your extranet. In this example, Adventureworks has chosen an address of extranet.awbikes.com. awbikes.com is the primary domain name that they own for their business. Contrast that with what they would have to use if they hosted their extranet on Office 365 SharePoint. There's no possibility for them to use their business domain name because they have to use Microsoft's SharePoint.com domain. This might seem like a minor issue to some people, but we believe that in B2B collaboration use cases, there's some very important benefits from being able to use your own domain name. First, it looks a lot more professional, which we believe communicates something about your company. Second, it gives your external users, which are often highly valued customers, the assurance that you have full control of your extranet and its content, and communicates to them that it's private and secure. Third, the domain and its associated SSL certificate are owned by you rather than by a third party such as Microsoft. So being able to specify the address is one compelling reason why a lot of organizations prefer an on-premises extranet over cloud offerings such as Office 365. Benefit number two of having an on-premises extranet is that it's possible to fully achieve your corporate branding goals. You can see from this example that Adventureworks has completely branded their extranet to match their standard company branding. You can also see that even invitation and notification emails are branded and that the system's smart enough to send them from internal user email addresses. The last point about email branding and email addresses is a very important one. It's another feature that helps your external users have confidence in where they are being asked to share confidential information with you. And contrast that with existing cloud services such as Office 365, and you'll find that it's difficult, if not impossible, to fully brand system-generated emails, and they are generally sent out using the service's system email address rather than your employee's email address. This may not inspire confidence on the part of your external users. Benefit number three is that your company owns the accounts of your external users when you have an on-premises extranet. Typically, your external user accounts will be stored in what's referred to as a SQL membership provider database, while your internal user accounts will be stored in your company's Active Directory. Just as your administrators have full control over your internal user accounts in Active Directory, they would have full control over your external user accounts because the SQL database is dedicated to you and it's located on premises. With cloud services, generally all user accounts, internal and external, are ultimately controlled by the cloud services provider. In the case of Office 365, both your internal user and external user accounts are hosted in Microsoft's Azure Active Directory. Now for your internal user accounts with Azure Active Directory, you have add, change, and delete permissions. But that's not the case for your external user accounts. Other than sharing and unsharing your content with your external users in Office 365, you have absolutely no control over their accounts. Benefit number 4 is that with on-premises extranets, it's your SQL servers that host the extranet's content and account databases, and therefore they're 100% dedicated to your company, and you can do all the normal periodic backups of the full databases that you've been accustomed to doing for years. That's not true at all with most cloud services. You have no access to the database servers or the physical files, so you cannot do normal backups. Also, the type of databases used are normally multi-tenant databases. That means your content is stored in the same databases as other tenants' content. Therefore, the service provider could not allow you to have a backup copy of the files, even if it were technically possible. So those are some things that have been great about on-premises extranets. Now let's talk about what has been not so great about on-premises extranets, because there's some of those things too. First, the complexity of on-premises SharePoint is legendary. There are just a lot of technologies that work together that IT has to understand to troubleshoot problems and keep the system running smoothly. Adding extranet capabilities to on-premises SharePoint is a lot simpler than it used to be, thanks to the advanced setup wizards that now come built into products like ExCM on-premises. But at the end of the day, you still have a lot of technology working under the hood that must be monitored and understood by your IT staff. Second, the process of upgrading from one version of SharePoint to another, for instance from SharePoint 2013 to SharePoint 2016, is difficult and time-consuming. Perhaps that's one of the reasons that new versions of SharePoint on premises tend to be released on a 3-year cycle. It's just too much work for IT to tackle on a more frequent basis. By the way, in case you're wondering, the graphics from this slide are taken from Microsoft's Technic documentation on the process to upgrade from SharePoint 2013 to 2016. Finally, we'd have to be living under a rock not to recognize that the trend in the software industry is towards cloud-hosted applications rather than on-premises applications. Here at Premier Point Solutions, we still love on-premises software and plan to make our on-premises versions available for as long as customers want them, hopefully for years to come. But we also know that IT trends cannot be ignored, and we are committed to being part of the cloud era as well. So with all that said, with the launch of ExCM Extranet Online, we've come up with a cloud-based solution that we feel offers what's great about an on-premises extranet, but eliminate the not so great aspects. We believe it's the best of both worlds. So let me switch out of my slides and get my demo going here. Give me 1 second and then we'll jump in and I'll do a basic demo for you. We'll start the demonstration as Brenda Mason. And Brenda is with awbikes.com, Adventureworks bicycles. And she is logged in here to, they use Office 365 as their intranet platform, and it works great for that purpose. ExCM Extranet Online does not require that you also use Office 365 for your intranet. You could use on-premises or SharePoint or something completely different, but in this example, we're going to show a common scenario these days in where Adventureworks is an Office 365 subscriber and are using it for intranet purposes. Now, the company also works with a lot of external business partners, such as its customers, vendors, and others, and has determined that it needs a better solution for privately collaborating with them. So Adventureworks has added ExCM Extranet Online as its extranet collaboration platform. And all employees have been trained to use ExCM Extranet Online for sharing with external users, and they know that it's easy to access directly from the Office 365 app launcher. So I'm going to come up here and click on the app launcher, and you'll notice that Brenda has access here to a application, and it's got the ExCM logo and extranet. So she knows this is how she goes about doing extranet sharing. Now, because it's Brenda's first time of the day to access the extranet, she's been directed to the Adventureworks secure extranet sign-in page. You must sign in by clicking the button to log in as an employee. So she clicks the top button, and what's happening behind the scenes here is that Adventureworks extranet is verifying that Brenda has already successfully logged in to her company's Azure Active Directory tenant. Since she has, then the extranet trusts her Azure AD account and automatically logs her into the extranet. So the one requirement that ExCM Online does have is that you have an Azure Active Directory tenant, which is also something that's quite common these days. You don't have to have Office 365. An Azure Active Directory tenant is actually a free thing, and what most organizations are doing is using Azure AD Connect to synchronize their on-premises Active Directory with Azure AD. But anyway, not wanting to get technical in this webinar, but that is the one requirement, is that you have an Azure Active Directory tenant, and your accounts in it is what ExCM Online uses to authenticate your internal users. So now Brenda has landed on the extranet request homepage. This site serves as a self-service portal for employees to make requests for new extranet sites and to make requests for administrative changes to existing sites, such as granting access to another user. Behind this site is an automated request processing engine that will pick up employee-submitted requests from a queue and fulfill the request based on company policies for the type of request that's been made. This site's got a 3-column layout. The leftmost column is designed to provide the employee with a tree view of the extranet sites that he or she owns or has been granted access to by another user. So you can see that Brenda has access to a few extranet sites already. The center column is titled Submit a Request, and this is where the list of different types of requests for new sites will appear. In this example, the company only requires a single type of site for extranet collaboration purposes. And then the rightmost column shows Brenda's most recent requests and the results. It also serves as Brenda's dashboard for requests that she has submitted. So in this demonstration, we'll have Brenda request a new extranet site for collaboration with XYZ Corp, a customer, on a private contract between the two companies. So she begins by clicking on Make Request. Brenda's taken to the new request form for the request type that she selected, in this case, a request for a new extranet site. The fields on this form have been chosen by the Adventureworks extranet administrators during the setup process when the company defined its rules and policies for creating extranet sites. And in this case, Brenda doesn't have to supply a lot, but she does have to supply a title for the new site. And optionally, she can also go ahead and specify other employees or internal users to share the site with. and she can specify external users to invite to register for the site. So that would be your customers and vendors, your non-employees. In this case, like I said, all she needs to do is set a title. So she's going to call this the XYZ Corp Private. We'll just call it XYZ Corp Private, and she's going to forego sharing it during the request process. She's going to forego sharing with any other internal users, external users. You can also do that once the site has been created. She'll be able to do that. So we're going to show you that way because we can demonstrate a couple other features as we're doing that. So at this point, just supply a site title and click Finish. So her request has now been submitted to the queue, and she's returned to the Extranet request homepage where she can see that it is awaiting processing. This top entry in the queue right here. Now, the request processing engine picks up new requests every 60 seconds. So processing on Brenda's request should start soon. There are a lot of steps in the Adventureworks Extranet site profile that must be completed by the request processing engine to create the site so that it conforms to their company policy. And in general, it takes a couple of minutes for the request to be completely processed and the new site to be ready for Brenda. You can see that it has started there. So in a couple of minutes, the new site will be available. While we're waiting, notice that there are a couple of other links on the page here that Brenda can use to A, view a list of her request history, and B, view a list of her provision sites. So let's look at the request history list. So here's the request history list. This is a security trim list that is automatically maintained for each employee. It shows all of their past requests and the outcome. Brenda can drill into any of the request history records for more details. And notice that it shows not only requests for new sites, but it also shows administrative requests for existing sites. Another thing to point out here is, like I said, this is a security trimmed list, so Brenda only sees her requests. And Extranet administrator would be able to see all requests made by all users. So let's go back and check and see how that request is coming. And it does look like it's completed here. There's a couple of ways that Brenda now can navigate to her new site. One way is she can hover over it, and there's some links here to the new site. Another way, if she goes back and checks her email, she will have received a notification via email. And here it is. Tells her that her request for her new site succeeded, and it is giving her a link to it here. We'll go back over here and just use the link in the dashboard. And now Brenda has her site. And currently she's the only user that has access to it. She's a special kind of owner of the site. She's been based on the policy that was established by Adventureworks when the Extranet was set up. She has certain administrative abilities here. Now under the hood, this is a SharePoint site, but a combination of the unique features of ExCM Extranet Online and those specific policies that were implemented at setup time by Adventureworks makes it a great fit for document-centric private collaboration. And over the years, that's what we've seen as the most common B2B collaboration scenario, is the sharing of private and confidential documents. So Brenda is interested in a couple of things at this point. Number one, she wants to upload the initial version of the XYZ Corp contract to the site. And then number two, she wants to invite Milo Weaver from XYZ Corp to register for access to the site. So she begins by clicking on the Upload Manage button here. And then she proceeds to go ahead and upload the draft of the contract. Okay, now the document is uploaded to the Extranet site. And notice that the user interface has easy to use, easy to access icons for various actions that can be taken on the document. So we've worked really hard to make it very user friendly. We have, you can see here, you have an add a signature icon. You've got a download a copy, a check the version history, subscribe to an email alert, and then a delete icon here. And one of the reasons that we've put a focus on making it as easy to use as possible is because that typically your external users don't receive any training for extranet usage. These are your customers and vendors. You don't provide training class for them on how to use your extranet. So it needs to be super simple, super easy for them to use. And so we've worked hard to try to give that kind of user experience. Now Brenda's ready to invite Milo Weaver of XYZ Corp to register for access to the site. To do that, she starts by clicking on the site owner admin link, which only she'll see because it's security trim and she's currently the only owner of this extranet site. So she comes up here and clicks on site owner admin, and Brenda sees the extranet site administration page that she has access to. It's a fairly short list of administrative tasks that she can perform for the site. In general, the administrative tasks are locked down to only the ones that are safe for Brenda to have access to. For instance, some typical SharePoint tasks such as setting permissions for specific groups, and for that matter, even creating additional groups are not available to Brenda because these settings have already been baked into the site when the company first set up the extranet and established its policies for extranet sites. To invite Milo to register for access to this site, Brenda selects the first link for external users. And from here, she can manage the external users that have registered for the site. And since this is a brand new site and no invitations have been sent out so far, there currently aren't any. But the invite users icon in the ribbon is available, so she locates it and clicks on it. And the instructions here tell her that she can enter one or more email addresses to send invitations to. Right now, she just wants to invite Milo, so she types his email address. And she clicks the save button. Now the invitation email will be immediately sent to Milo, and there's really nothing left for Brenda to do. But if she would like to verify that the invitation has been sent, she can easily do that by navigating again to the site owner admin page and finding the view invitations link. So she'll click here. And then if she scans down the page under external users, she's going to see view invitations. And there it is. So she tells her that she has invited Milo at xyzcorp.biz. She created the invitation at this time, and it expires by policy on this date and time. I think it's set to 3 days. So now at this point, we're kind of finished with, Brenda's done the two things that she wanted to do to get the site created. I guess she's actually done three things. She made the request for the site, then she uploaded the contract that she's going to work with Milo of XYZ Corp on, and then she invited Milo to register for the site and gain access. So now we really need to switch over to Milo and see what his experience is like. So to do that, I'm going to split the screen here, put Brenda's browser over on the left side, and then I'm going to bring up another browser where we're logged in as into Milo's email inbox. And so it turns out Milo also uses Office 365, but he's with XYZ Corp. And you can see that he's already received his invitation here. It's the one we just sent out. And let me open it up a little bit larger so that we can see what it looks like. So you can see that the invitation has arrived from Brenda at awbikes.com and that it's branded to match the overall extranet experience that Milo's going to see when he registers and logs in. And since he's expecting to be invited by Brenda and the invitation email clearly is from the Adventureworks extranet, that gives him a level of trust. And so he feels good about going ahead and clicking on the register link. I'm just going to close this out and click from it here so I can keep my two halves of the screen going. And then Milo hits the Adventureworks extranet registration page. It already has his email address filled in. In fact, he can't change that because it has to stay the email address that the invitation was sent to. He goes ahead and chooses his password. And the fields that are on the registration form can be defined. Adventureworks got to choose what fields they wanted to include. Some have to be included, such as the country and phone number for two-factor authentication. Adventureworks could collect other data from Milo at registration time. There could be a terms of service field on here that has to be accepted. So let's go ahead and click finish. So Milo sees the registration accepted page and he can click the button to go ahead and log into the site. So this takes Milo to the Adventureworks sign-in page. You've seen this once when we signed in Brenda as an employee, but Milo's an external user. He's not an Adventureworks employee, so he uses the bottom half of the page to sign in. And he begins by entering his name, which is his email address. And next, because the sign-in process uses multi-factor authentication, he needs to request that a code be sent to him via email or text message so that he can enter the code in addition to his password. In this example, he's going to choose to receive the code via email so that I can show you what the email looks like. So let me go ahead and check that. I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm going to say request code. Tells him that the code's been sent to check his email. And so if we come back over here, here is his code. So this one we have not worked on branding specifically for Adventureworks, but that certainly can be done. So, but at this point, he's being told that he's being sent this code to as part of his authentication for the Adventureworks Cycles extranet. So 937642 is his code. And then he enters his password. And he hits sign in. And He is signed in. He is successfully signed in, has access to all the content that Brenda has already added to the site. In this case, it was just simply that one contract. Now, notice that I'll show you here, make it obvious, but that Milo has no administrative capabilities to this site. First of all, you can see, I'm going to go ahead and expand Brenda out again, full screen. You can see that Brenda has a site actions icon up here, although it has limited things that she can do on that through site actions. And then of course she also has access to the site owner admin menu and something called the site sponsor admin menu. So she has things she can do. If we look at Milo, first of all, we see there is no site actions gear icon for him, and there are no menu items for him. So you might think that Milo has read-only permissions to the site, but that's not the case. He has the ability to add, change, and delete content. But using a combination of the features of ExCM Extranet Online and the security policies chosen by Adventureworks during setup, external users have a very locked down user experience. They can do what they need to do to collaborate, but nothing more. So I'm about to wrap the demo up here. I'll do one more thing. Let's say Brenda at this point might be wondering if Milo has successfully registered for the site and has been able to access it. To determine this, one thing she can do is check the registrations list. So if she comes over here and goes to her site owner admin page again and scrolls down into her external users, she can find the view registrations link. And there she can see the registration record for Milo. She can see that he did in fact register and that he's been assigned to the members security group. Well, this concludes the basic demo that we do. There are many other features that we could show, such as the auditing capabilities of the system and the process for requesting other types of administrative changes to a site. But we're going to save those for a future webinar. So with that, let me switch back and wrap up a slide, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers. If you'd like to get a trial account for ExCM Extranet Online, all you need to do is visit our website and navigate to the product page. Once there, click on the Try Now button and fill out the brief form to request a 14-day trial. We'll get your trial account set up and contact you quickly with the details. ExCM Extranet Online is currently in beta testing. If all continues to go smoothly, we plan for the product to launch in production no later than October the 1st. So now is a time that we can answer your questions if you have any. There's a questions box. If you would go ahead and type in any questions that you have, we'll do our best to give you accurate answers. Looks like we have one question from Simon. He says, very interesting. Would this make sense if we wanted to keep our primary intranet on premises, but move our collaboration portals to Office 365? That's a good question. You certainly could keep your intranet on premises. As far as Office 365 goes, this is sort of in some ways you could think of it as an add-on to Office 365 in the sense that you can go quickly from an Office 365 site to an extranet site, but you really don't use Office 365 sites to host your extranet content on this. This is a separate service that is integrated definitely with Azure Active Directory. It runs in Azure, but it's a service that we operate. So your content is contained in our service. You get your own dedicated content databases. One of the things that does for you is that you can also optionally have backup copies of your databases, which is something that you can't do if your content is kept in Office 365, because those are multi-tenant databases that only Microsoft has control of. Now, another thing that someone's asking here is, what about migration? Could we migrate from on-premises, our on-premises extranet to this solution? And that is one of the big benefits, another big benefit that this offers over Office 365 external sharing. There's currently no way to migrate if you're using an on-premises SharePoint-based extranet and you're using forms-based authentication with the SQL membership provider. There's no way to migrate your external user accounts to Office 365. Basically, you just have to start over. You can migrate your content, your sites and your content, but there's no way to migrate those external user accounts. So all your external users, you have to reshare with all of them, and then they have to set up Microsoft accounts unless they already have Microsoft accounts. So one of the things that we're offering here is, because the service that we're running and hosting here uses the same technology as your on-premises service, we're offering the ability for you to do a seamless migration of both accounts and content. So in essence, you could move from on-premises to ExCM Extranet online, and you could keep the same URL, the content stays the same, the internal and external accounts stay the same, and really nobody but you would know that your extranet is running in a cloud service rather than on premises if you choose to do it that way. Let's see if there's any other, doesn't seem to be any other questions. If anybody has another question, now would be a great time to go ahead and ask it. Well, it looks like we're finished then. Thank you very much for attending. Please let us know if we can answer any questions. I think I got my contact info here. Of course, you'll receive an email after the webinar with a link to the recording of the webinar. If you'd like to look at it again or show it to somebody else, you can email me at jeff@premierpointsolutions.com. And thank you very much and have a great weekend.